All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm Monica Duran, and I'm a customer success manager here at WorkRamp. WorkRamp is the leading end-to-end training platform for educating employees and customers at top companies like Zoom, Square, Slack, and Fivetran. And with that said, we have the one and only Petek Hawkins with us today. So Petek, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully we'll make it super useful and engaging and fun at the same time. I am the head of Enablement Learning and Development at Fivetran. And just a little bit about my past, I used to do this back at Zoom Video Communications. And I joined Fivetran about a year ago. I just actually celebrated my 1 year.
Congratulations.
I'm super excited about that. My background is actually sales and sales enablement, and hopefully we're going to give you some good nuggets on how you can help promote companies, multi-million companies to become, future 500, Fortune 500 companies and grow, and that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. So now let's go ahead and dive into today's topics. So our topic this morning is on remote onboarding and what that means for training and learner engagement. So we're lucky to have Petek here today, who brings tons of enablement experience from Zoom and Fivetran and over 10 years of experience managing sales teams. So she might know a thing or two. So, so for today, we'll be covering 4 topics. The first one being moving to a remote environment and what that experience has been like and some key things to keep in mind. Then from there, we will discuss remote onboarding and what that looks like at Fivetran. Our third topic, we will cover how to scale training during COVID and go over some quick tips and things to be aware of when trying to scale your trainings. Then lastly, we will talk about the learner experience and how to help employees stay motivated and focused while working remotely. Okay, so as always, for everyone joining us today, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll get to them at the end. So for our first topic today, the move to remote, one question I have to kick things off, Petek, is what do you think has been the biggest challenge for Fivetran during COVID?
So for Fivetran, I think we're no different than anyone else. It's been really difficult to make sure that everybody has the high morale, everybody's engaged. And because, I mean, it's been now over 60 days, I think that we've been cooped inside.
Right.
And cannot interact with anyone. So how do we make sure that, number one, we keep morale high? And that's the most important thing to me. And how do we make sure that everybody's aligned on the same message and everybody has a good, clear North Star and make sure that they feel like they're taken care of? So these have been a challenge, and we're a global company. We have offices here in the US, we have EMEA, we have APAC, India. So how do we make sure that we take care of everyone and support them personally and professionally? So that's been the biggest challenge.
Right. And for everyone asking, can you dive deeper into those topics? We are going to get to those later on in the webinar, so stay tuned. But another question I have is, what tools or resources is Fivetran using to help the transition to remote work?
Obviously, WorkRamp is a great one. And I cannot wait to think about or talk about some of the great things that we've done with WorkRamp just for that employee engagement and helping people see their value. Because in a company, you want to make sure that everybody wakes up every morning and they know and feel what they're doing is really has a big impact. And how do we do that? So WorkRamp has been essential for that. We started trialing this video company called BombBomb, where you can record quick 5-second, 10-second videos just to get everybody pumped up for the week and get the clear message out there. So we were using Google Hangouts as a company, and we still are using Google Hangouts overall. However, I was able to convince our CEO that we need Zoom video communications because we really need breakout sessions to keep engagement, especially we're still growing, luckily, in this COVID world, and we're hiring a ton of people. So we need to do that onboarding, and Zoom has been essential for that onboarding and engagement. And of course, Slack, but meaningful and mindful Slack, and we're going to talk about that too, no cognitive overload. So these tools have been really helpful for us to keep our employees engaged, make sure that they're happy, and give them a nice, clear North Star of what's expected of them.
Right. No, that makes total sense. And I like that you're like meaningful Slack. Slack can blow up immediately with a bunch of stuff and memes.
Yes.
All right. So one of the other questions that I wanted to dive deeper into is how have your enablement priorities and initiatives changed with the recent shift to remote work?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm super lucky because my team here at Fivetran, we used to work together at Zoom. So we knew immediately, okay, we can solve engagement issue with just getting Zoom on board as a tool, and that will be great. However, there were some other things, and I don't know, like Carmel, Christine, Erin, everybody that I'm seeing here, maybe you observed this too. As soon as COVID world started, there has been this cognitive overload in every part of our organization. And everybody started working extra. Everybody started getting bombarded with a lot of messages, a lot of to-dos.
Right.
And it wasn't done intentionally. It was just that it just happened. And we kind of sort of found ourselves in that world where people are getting overwhelmed. And one of the things that we've done as a team, Amira, Mike, and Jay, is we started doing some surveys just to see, hey team, globally, what's happening in your world? How can we help you out? And overall feedback that we got was, we're overwhelmed. And we said, yes, so are we. What do we do? And it was really cool to acknowledge that right away within like the first 2 weeks. And we started really talking to our management team and bringing them on board with saying, hey, we need to slow down on the cognitive overload. We need to find one team, one theme. So that's really important, and make sure that we're just creating that North Star and giving people that peace of mind, saying there is a work-life balance, even though you're working at home. So make sure that your schedule starts when you would normally go to work, and then you have to shut down that computer and give yourself some time, and make sure that you're taking that personal oxygen mask first before you can.
Right. No, I think that's great. I think also, if you wanted to kind of like touch in, you said one team, one theme. If you wanted to dive into like what exactly that is.
Mm-hmm. So this was a result of us doing the surveys, listening our company and our employees. Quite frankly, our sales have been doing great. Our engineers have been doing great. And I think just because people are at home and they want to still show that they're working hard, all of a sudden there's all these extra initiatives that started coming into the worlds of these different unique groups. And just so for everybody to know here, as Global Learning Enablement and Development, we cover everyone from sales to engineering, everybody in the company. And
that's a lot.
It is a lot. However, it's nice because then we can get these certain trends that are happening and take action immediately. So we took it to, I report directly to our COO, Taylor, and I said, Taylor, we have this weird phenomena going on. It's the cognitive overload. We need to just really nail down what we're expecting our employees to do and just make that message really clear. On weekly basis, monthly basis, let's just focus on one anchor and then focus on make that focus global. And so everybody's know where they're rowing towards, right? So that's our one team, one theme. We pick one theme every week, and our CEO sends the message through BombBomb trial. And we say, hey team, we really appreciate you first and foremost. And that's the most important thing. And secondly, this week as a company, in technical side, this is our focus. In go-to-market side, this is our focus. Let's all row towards the same direction. It's as simple as that. But just doing that has made a huge difference, because now people feel like they're not dropping balls left and right. Because there's too many struggle. It's just like one thing that I have to do, and it's such a good feeling, and morale has gone up quite a bit for that.
Yeah. So one thing you did touch on was like the survey questions, which I think is really great, because one, I think the culture that you've presented to us is this like open culture where I can just give you my honest feedback and tell you, yes, I am overwhelmed, and not just like, oh, I'll just take on more work. It's fine. And so somebody actually typed in and asked, what are some of the questions that you do ask on the survey when you are trying to get people's feedback?
We make it very clear and we make it very short, but a couple of things that you can use is super simply, what's your morale level, high to low, for them to rank?
Right.
And tell us a little bit about how you're feeling, just open-ended question. I mean, just these two things really help people spill it out. And of course, make sure that you're not asking for email names or anything like that. So it's totally anonymous and they can really give you the feedback that they're looking for.
Right.
So just that simply, what's your morale like? How can we help you? What's some of the feedback that you have so that you can be more productive or your morale could be higher? Keep it simple. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just be there for them.
I think that's totally true because I get a lot of people who are like, well, what questions do I specifically ask? And I like the fact that you're saying, keep it simple, just give them the honest questions that they want to hear and just be ready for some feedback, even if it is something that you may not want to hear. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And especially if you think about it, sometimes, well, first and foremost, it's really important for you to really nail down the outcome that you're looking for. What am I trying to solve for? Is it morale? Then just make it really simple. It's funny to me when sometimes people try to make it more sophisticated and complicated and come up with some weird way to put it. And maybe it's because I have an accent and I was ESL. But to me, it's like the simpler, the better. And it's just no need to complicate things. That's my motto.
Right. No, I like that a lot. So one of the things you did touch on was basically having people understand how they contribute to the bigger picture. And could you want to explain a little bit more of like what exactly all of that entailed and what they were, I guess, challenged to do?
Mm-hmm. So as a company, we have some really amazing core values. And one of them is one team, one dream. And we really live by that. It's not just a saying, like we truly embrace this. As a part of that, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we build our company strategy. And as a part of that company strategy, we build our company OKRs. And that becomes our North Star for the entire year. And our goal is that once this is done, we don't want this to be something like just the executive leadership is aware of and the rest of the company has no idea. So we post these things in our company knowledge base, which is Slab. And then we have an amazing partnership with Slab and WordCamp. So we copy or embed what's in Slab into WordCamp. And we send it as a certification. And we call this How to Live Like a Fivetranner. So we have them go through our strategy, our OKRs. And most importantly, the questions that we ask there is that looking at these OKRs, how do you think your team is contributing to this OKR and strategy? And same thing for how do you specifically every day what you do is contributing to this OKR and strategy. And at first I'm thinking, I cannot believe that I'm bombarding the entire company with this. And the feedback that I got was amazing because they were saying, oh, we really thought this was going to be redundant. You could just go to Slab and read it. But the questions that you asked and how it made me start thinking about every day what I do is really impacting our business and our customers made a huge difference. And that made me really happy because that's our goal, right? And I highly recommend it to other teams if you haven't done that. It's phenomenal, super empowering, and you're letting people really answer those questions candidly. And as a follow-up, we have the managers go through those answers and during their one-on-ones asking, how could you help you better? What tools do you need from me? So it just creates this entire momentum and value towards our big strategy, our hedgehog, our flywheel and everything. So really cool, really cool stuff to see.
No, I think that's important because if people don't understand how they fit in the grand scheme of things and they don't realize how important their position is and overall how valuable they are. And so I think the exercise that you put them through was extremely important. And I think it contributed to the whole company. And I think that's something other organizations could implement real easily and get a lot of good feedback from.
Absolutely. And another thing that we're doing as the LED team is that we have gratitude days. So we actually specifically reach out to managers and we tell them how much we appreciate them and their work. Of course, we do the individual contributors as well. But if you think about it, team, our managers are going through some really tough times. They have to hit their numbers, do their daily duties, and they have to keep that morale up for their teams. Just a little reminder to say, hey, this is how much I appreciate you and why goes a long way from morale standpoint.
I love that. So on to the next thing that I want to discuss, which is remote onboarding. So something several companies that are having to do now. What does onboarding at Fivetran look like?
Mm-hmm. So we're super excited about our onboarding because we do satisfaction surveys and our numbers always go up, number one, which is great. And number two, for every time when we have our all hands or somebody doing a shout out, we hear how great of a team we are with onboarding, which makes me really happy. So how did that happen? Number one, again, listening to people and giving them exactly what they want. In the past, I would say I very type A personality when it comes to everything has to be this perfect world. And I just wanted to shove everything everybody needed to know in one place. And our survey results were like, I have so much cognitive overload right now. I cannot remember the first thing that we talked about. So first and foremost, we did a lot of surveys. And what we found out, the best way to onboard people is creating a time frame, which we call the pre-onboarding, pre-academy onboarding. And that time frame is that when you first join a company, within your first 15 days, what are some of the things that you absolutely need? Your tools, get to know the team, sign up with your mentor and your buddy, make sure that you understand what your journey looks like, have your one-on-ones. And we run that through Workram, and each different department has their own different pre-academy guides that they go through, and we call that the success recipe. So that's our pre-onboarding. And then we have the academy that starts about 15 days before people, or about 15 days after people start. This was a big and very important win for us to work with our people ops team, which Amanda's amazing, our HR, and we couldn't find better partners. We said, can we have people all start at the same time? And she said, absolutely, go for it. So for that reason, we know how long it is before the academy, 15 days. Within 15 days, we start the academy. And during the academy, we go through certain themes such as get to know the company, get to know the culture, understand what you need for your first 30 days, understand the data space for us, understand why Fivetran, and our key methodologies. And this is for our go-to-market teams. And then we have a technical wins academy, which focuses more on the technical side of things. So that academy goes for a week. And at the end of the week, we still actually utilize Workramp to do, for example, our elevator pitches, surveys, and all that stuff daily. And then after that, we have the ramp-up period. Ramp-up period is more meet the learner where they are, bite-sized learnings. Again, don't overboil the ocean. Just make sure that you give them few little things, and those are the must-have important skills and behaviors and knowledge. So those three programs make up our onboarding for the entire company right now.
One quick question I had is, you mentioned that you like people to come in and be hired on in cohorts. Mm-hmm. What is the difference? Why do you prefer that over just having individuals come in every 1 week and just a couple here, a couple there?
It's just the experience that you create for the new employee. It's just when you're a part of a cohort, you have the same Slack group, you're having the same conversations, you can help each other, and we can create really nice onboarding with HR, IT, LED. So it's just a lot more streamlined, and it gives people that belonging right away, and it just makes them feel like they're engaged right away, and they start embracing those values right away.
Right. I feel like there's a bit of camaraderie too, because I feel like if you come in as just one individual, you're in this new company and nobody else is new and you're the only person. But if you come in with other people who are new, you kind of already build that relationship with them.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. So you did mention the pre-academy. What are some key elements of that?
So definitely setting up with the tools, making sure that they go through their benefits, those classic stuff, but just more streamlined. And depending on the role, they're going to have to work on different things. But for example, for sales, we do introduction to our competitor space. We do introduction to our customer profiles. We have them go through case studies, and we have some structured observation sessions where we build out exactly what that experience should look like with their paired up buddy mentor within the team. And they go through those shadow sessions looking at very specific key takeaways. And then they have those recap conversations and feedback conversations with the shadow sessions. And that almost holds true for across the company from, again, engineering to sales.
Mm-hmm. One quick question, if you want to take this question, Petek. So here we go. So one person asked, how can we address cognitive overload? Because you keep mentioning that, you know, that is key, that was one of the biggest things that you found out is that, oh my gosh, I'm overloading my employees. So how do you address cognitive overload once we learn that it's a problem? And how many learning / training hours a day per or week, et cetera, is a good guideline to go off of?
So for guidelines, there's just a lot to talk about. So whoever asked that, there's a book. It's by actually Wiley Education. I'm trying to think about the name. I think it's the Field Guide to the 60s. If you get that book, there is an amazing amount of information there for you. However, what I know from learning is that don't do learning just to do learning. And I would say when somebody says we need enablement, we need L&D done, ask that person, what are we trying to solve for? Is that a behavior? Is that an expectation? Is there something that maybe it's not really a learning opportunity, but more coaching opportunity? Really deep dive into that, because by doing that, number one, you can start understanding if that has to become learning or enablement and training. And once you have that, if it does necessarily have to be a learning and training, then I would say definitely there's not a right answer for this. You need to ask the team that you're with, and you have to empower the managers that you're working with to have them tell you what is their team capable of right now.
Right.
Because even in this same company, needs change from month to month, week to week. So you have to really ask the question and listen, there's not a right or wrong answer, unfortunately. Within the training itself, my rule of thumb is try to capture a concept for 10 minutes and then try to create some natural pauses or switch points so people can re-engage, and then go to cover the other thing in the next 10 minutes and then the other thing in the next 10 minutes. And try to keep it to top 3 outcomes, top 3 learning opportunities in a given session. Because any more than that, we're all ADD, people are just
I don't care who you are, we're all ADD. Right?
Exactly. One more thing, keep in mind that training itself, the actual ILC training itself, is only 10% of the learning. The other 70% is going to come from coaching and working with the managers to make sure that they are really reiterating everything that was learned and doing the coaching. And the other 20% is going to come, or vice versa, 20% is going to come from the coaching, and the 70% is going to come from hands-on experience. So make sure that when you say training, you're building that entire experience so they can go and execute it that way, not just a training.
So I think the biggest thing that you're also reiterating here is making sure that the managers and management is involved. And I really like that. So how do you go about training the managers? How are you getting them empowered to go ahead and do their job and coach them that way?
So number one thing, you have to sell them the value. It's not like they're going to say, hey, I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to take on more work. However, if you just let them know, hey, you're empowered to do this, and this is going to help you, number one, get to your goals faster. And as a manager, you're going to have to, in the long run, do less and get better results if you do this. Once you sell that vision and they're on board, you empower them. So for example, we empower them to introduce the training. And before the training happens, on their one-on-ones, we ask them to have a candid conversation with their reps to say, this is an amazing learning opportunity. What are you going to specifically take out of this? And so the managers are really almost setting expectations, saying, you're going to go there with these expectations and you're going to learn something great. And that empowerment and ownership of developing their own reps has been amazing for me. And at Fivetran, we nailed it. And I wasn't able to do that before. It's just that you have to take the time, you have to sell them, and just make sure that they're empowered to do their people's development, and they know it and they feel it.
Right. So I know you covered that. So like that's all covered in the pre-academy. So for Fivetran Onboarding Academy, how has the learner experience changed, if at all, in this transition to remote work?
Yeah, before it was like a kindergarten room, I feel like. People will come in, we'll have snacks, you will have
I
fidget
loved kindergarten. Those were the years.
I know, right? Me too. We were just creating this super fun, super exciting environment for them. And by the way, if you're hearing my dog, I apologize. That's Calvin. Amazon delivery, it sounds like. So basically, when we went virtual and when we were doing onboarding, we have EMEA, we have APAC, and we have North America. We said, okay, challenge accepted. What do? Again, we do Zoom. The main reason why we did Zoom was that how do we keep the engagement throughout the onboarding? It's creating smaller breakout rooms where everybody gets a chance to speak. The more people speak, the more people that are involved and doing hands-on experiments, the more learning happens. So the Zoom virtual breakout rooms was a must for us. So we just onboarded that quite easily by being able to make in that business case. After that, we just made sure that those breakout rooms, maybe in the past we would have maybe breakout groups of 5. We just narrowed it down to breakout groups of 3. So again, that everybody could have a chance to talk and make sure that they're part of the engagement. And our satisfaction scores, believe it or not, has gone up with the COVID and virtual onboarding than we had in class. So something is working. And I think we're going to continue to do those like smaller breakout groups because of that.
Well, I thought it was so great because when we were prepping for this, you mentioned the breakout rooms. And I was like, what is that? I've never even heard about that. And then you gave me an example of what it is and what Zoom can do with these breakout rooms with smaller groups. And it made complete sense. And I was like, man, we need to get that, because in those smaller groups, it can be intimidating to talk to a bunch of people or just to speak up, and even just with 10 people. So if you can make it smaller where it's just 5 or 3 people, I feel like people are able to voice their opinions and kind of speak up. And I feel like it gives them a little bit more confidence to kind of move to a bigger room next time.
Absolutely. And before you know it, day 3, everybody's so confident. They're like, yeah, we own Fivetran. And I'm like, yes, that's what we needed.
I love that. So I guess I remember when we talked, you talked about some growth exercises. Do you have any examples of that, of what you kind of implement over at Fivetran?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier. At Fivetran, when we're onboarding our reps, we really would like to empower them, to let them know, okay, this is what you're doing in your career. This is your role. This is what growth can look like. And we have created really nice IC and management levels, IC standing for individual contributor, for each role. And that really clearly highlights what skills, behaviors, core competencies that they need. So right away in that Academy Week, we have an exercise where they go into that article in Slab and they take a look at, okay, this is where I am. And we started just naming these your superhero powers and your kryptonites. So I asked them, like, okay, if you were to look at your competencies, skills, and behaviors, which one of these is your superhero powers that you're already super good at and you're going to continue to leverage? And which one of these is your kryptonite? Like, number one, you don't enjoy to do, like admin work for me, or if it's something that you've never done before, what are those things that are your kryptonite? And we really help them see right away, identify how they're going to excel really fast with that superhero power. And then what is one thing that they want to start working on right away? And they share this with their manager. So on their first one-on-one, they start talking about, okay, these are the learning experiences that you can do. Here are some resources. So it really helps them start that growth right away. And then in addition, they have a pretty good idea. Hey, if I'm a BDR and if I want to become an AE, these are the skills that I want to work towards in the next 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And we got a lot of great feedback out of that.
Right. No, I really like that because I think it really evaluates, especially coming into a job. And even if I think you could even do it when you're already sitting in a job for 2 years and you kind of need to reevaluate, okay, what am I not good at? What are some things that I need to work on and improve on?
Absolutely.
So for your new hires and their ramp up period, what are some key things you think people should remember?
First and foremost, and I say this in every class too, I really hope people get the message that they need to be kind. And when I say kind, obviously be kind to other people, but first and foremost, be kind to yourself. I have a lot of people who just start and they just want to become the superstar because obviously we hired them because they were superstars in their previous role.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it takes a minute for them to get used to that new ramp up period. So that's one thing that they should remember. Absolutely. And as the LED, it's our job to make sure that we reiterate that as often as possible. Definitely align with the management. Make sure that the manager knows that they're empowered for development of their own rep and they're doing fantastic things, and then just continue to do that. Right. Because that's really important. And kind of going hand in hand with that, give a lot of kudos to managers because again, we expect a lot from the managers and they're doing a really good job owning that development. Make sure that you remind them and make it very public that this manager is doing a phenomenal job with that. Also, give reps a lot of kudos. Celebrate every little win with them. I mean, we celebrate wins like the BDR gets hung up on for the first time. It's like fantastic. Out of your comfort zone.
Congratulations, you met a milestone.
It is a milestone for a BDR, especially first time out of college.
I don't know how you guys do it. I just don't.
Absolutely. And as the LED, make sure that you put your foot down and you let your company know that this onboarding is 100% required. It's not an exception.
Right.
So everybody has that same experience. So I would say those are pretty important.
Awesome. Well, so I love this next question. So what were some of the aha moments you had during Fivetran's transition to remote onboarding, if any?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a ton. I mean, again, going back to that cognitive overload, we found out what we were doing from the LED standpoint, the programs that we were rolling out, the trainings that we were doing. For some odd reason, it became harder to do all that stuff all at the same time. I mean, I had reps pinging me saying, I love your program. I get a lot of value out of it, but there's just so much of it right now that I feel like I'm failing because I'm not getting to them.
Right.
And we were able to manage that before. We're not able to manage that now. So stay agile. If you hear it out, take an action right away and make them feel like they're actually winning and not failing. So I was like, no, you're not failing. Who's failing is me because I didn't realize this before. So I'm going to own this and just lower it down and take the action and thank him for that feedback. That's really important. So that was an aha moment. You just need more precise to a point and less sessions, and let the management know why that is too, because let him know we don't want to make people feel like they're failing. That was right. What I heard.
I think it was key that you mentioned again that it's something where someone came to you, and the fact that you've already kind of have set that environment for them to just be like, hey, Petek, listen, this is great, but you're overloading me. I think that's wonderful because a lot of people are hesitant to speak up and say, hey, like, this is just too much right now. I have other things that I need to be doing, but I really do want to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're lucky in that sense, and we have amazing people. So I think the reason why we're doing so good is because our people are, again, so open, they take the initiative and they're able to, voice their opinion. However, there are people out there who's not going to be able to come up to me openly. So do surveys, just do that pulse check. Hey, how is the rate of the learning going for you? Rate from 1 to 10. Is it overwhelming? Is it not overwhelming? How's your morale? Those surveys help out a ton. And take that survey results to the management and say, like, for us, my aha moment is that we have too many initiatives going on. We need to narrow it down to one initiative and then work with the management so that this can come from top down, and you're just amplifying that message as the LED or enablement. So those are extremely important aha moments for me, I think.
Awesome. So now our third topic, which is how to scale remote training during COVID. So what are your 3 quick tips for folks trying to scale remote training during this time?
Again, require from the management one theme that people can really focus on and have a laser focus on that one thing. And then when you have that, again, consider this to be a process. This is not much different for COVID than before, but prepare pre-training. So how do the management set expectations and so on? What are we trying to do? That's very clear. Do the training, and also for a month long, just keep providing resources on that one theme. So instead of doing a bunch of trainings, do one training, but make sure that really sticks well with pre-training, training, and post-training activities, and make sure that the leaders know how to coach on that, and make sure that you continue to provide resources. Definitely, if you're gonna hold a big training with a lot of people, make sure that you use breakout rooms and keep it to 2 to 3 people. And for that, Zoom is phenomenal. And if you have Slack, absolutely do the integration with WorkRamp and Slack, because that's been phenomenal for us, because people can give more kudos when things are done. Again, it kind of goes back to giving praise and keeping the morale high. And definitely, if you get asked a ton of training needs because people are feeling like, oh, our team is lacking these skills, have a conversation with them and say, is this a training issue, or is this setting clear expectations, cognitive overload, they have too much to do? Walk them through that. So I would say those are some good advices there.
Perfect. Well, no, that it all made sense. Don't you worry about it. So one of the questions we got in also is, to avoid cognitive overload, how much of the learning do you break into text and WorkRamp guides, videos, and maybe small group sessions?
That's a great point. So I did not think about this before, so let me get my thoughts together. Video is a must. So we put our text stuff in Slab. So everything that you have to have in text, we actually embed it from our central knowledge, which is Slab. And in that, what we do is we divide it by what to do, what to know, what to show, what to say. So, and I divide the guides into those 4. So you do just a quick blurb on, again, on those categories, what to know, what to do, what to show, what to say, and then show with a video what good looks like, and then do a quick recap of assessment of what they just learned.
I like that. And I think you had mentioned, even when we were prepping for this, these bite-sized scoop sessions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you want to go into detail, because I think that would be really valuable for some of the people listening.
Yeah, that's, thank you for reminding that. So because again, people have a lot to communicate, and with COVID, it's kind of hard to do. We have this enablement sessions that we branded as scoop, like an ice cream scoop, just to make it fun. And once we realized that there's a lot of updates coming to sales or different groups, we just realized we need to create some other way for people to get this knowledge. So we started creating these bite-sized scoop learning. So we asked the subject matter expert who's going to be delivering the training on the update or whatever that might be, to keep a video of really short description of what they're about to do. And then again, within our central knowledge, have them divided extremely nicely to what to do, what to know, what to show, what to say. And we make sure that we Slack in our announcements on weekly basis saying, these are your weekly updates, so please go there and see it. And we got a lot of great feedback from that, because as long as it lives in that central knowledge place, people know always where to go to, so they don't have to find this random email. And then our enablement sessions are really focused on the most important skill improvements that is tied to that theme. So there's not, again, bombardment of cognitive overload at the same time. And then, of course, as a part of that, we have our managers held accountable to make sure that their teams are aware that these updates have been done, so they make sure they bring it up in their team meetings.
Right. I like this, what to do, what to know, what to show, what to say. I don't think you said that the last time we talked. So this is great. Got something new.
Yeah, it's really helpful, because that really helped me scale LED globally. People were asking me, how do I create enablement? And obviously I'm one person. Actually, up until 3 months ago, now I actually have a team, which is really exciting. But I was like, okay, here's your template. You fill this out with these, and then your enablement is there. So that is a really nice shortcut for scaling yourself if you're one person.
Well, then on that note, how do you drive high engagement rates and lower churn when it comes to training? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Give them what they want and only what they want. And again, I wasn't always good at this, and there's always going to be improvement on this. So don't think that I figured this out. But one thing that I figured out is that definitely keep it to one theme, and make sure that one theme is exactly what the sales needs. And for that, again, those surveys help out a ton. Go to management meetings, try to identify overarching themes that keeps repeating, and say, okay, this is what I'm hearing. And then make sure that you're aligned with the managers and they approve, yes, this is a theme that we're struggling with. Make sure you ask the reps then, is this what you're struggling with? And they say yes, then give them that training. Anything other than that, you're not hearing the themes and it's not coming up, don't overload. Give them maybe one training a month, but make sure that one training is going to really show them what's in it for them really well, and show them real fast wins. And that's how you increase engagement. There's no other way. Like, I tried gifts by themselves don't work.
Did you get it or no? Okay.
And they help, but turns out you just got to give them what they need.
I think one of the biggest things that you shared is, and I've heard this in the last 2 webinars that I've done also, is what's in it for me. That if you want people to do trainings, even just whether it's required or not required, if you want people to go actively looking for resources, you need to tell them what's in it for them. And that's what really hooks them.
Yeah, and the best way to do that, again, have the manager do a debrief before the training. So the manager can prep the questions to have the rep or the individual see what's in it for me even before the training happens. In the training, reiterate very clearly, at the end of this training, you're going to be a boss going and prospecting. So listen to me so you can get a lot of great leads. So they're like, okay, my ears are on you and eyes are on you right now. And after the training, make sure that you reiterate and then celebrate those wins when they apply that training and they see the wins, because that's like kind of that whole picture come together.
Right. So then with the managers, how do you create manager learning paths?
That's a great question. It's no different than what you're doing for the individual contributors. Understand what are their needs, what paths we have, and within their level, what are the core competencies and skills and behaviors that goes with that. And then understand by maybe doing verbal surveys or just sending out surveys, where are the skill gaps, and start with that. And then make sure that you follow the same thing. Before the training happens, the path happens, prepare them for that. During the path, make sure that you give them exactly what they need and make it very applied to their role. Just give them exactly how they're going to use it. And then moving forward, what I like to do at our company, and Mike Faber is helping me out with this now, which is super nice, create cohorts that can start practicing things together, the training together, and then start sharing best practices together. And then in given intervals, just create opportunities for everybody to come together and talk about maybe a difficulty that they had and how they overcome it, or what are some wins that they're having. So it's literally no different than what you will be doing for individual contributors. So again, keep it simple.
Right. And I think that's great to keep in mind. So I thought this is a great question when we were prepping for this webinar. So someone asked, what is something to look out for when scaling remote training?
Great question. So number one, you want to look out for what bandwidth you have in your team. And given the bandwidth, think about who's my audience. I mean, again, it's not much different than what you would do without having a remote training, but just know your audience, know your bandwidth, make sure that the outcome is even more crystal clear. What's in it for me is crystal clear, and set the expectations with the groups. Like, for example, one of the biggest challenges for us was in the same time, given time, we had to have APAC, EMEA, and North America in the same meeting. So for some people, it was really late. For some people, it was really early. For some of us, it was okay. But just make sure that you make it very clear that, hey, I know this is not ideal. However, we're in this together, and make it comfortable for them to be there. I even ask sometimes, like, hey, wear your PJs. It's okay if your dog is on your lap. Bring your pizza if you want to include it. You know, bring your breakfast. So make sure that people feel comfortable. That's really, really important. And then make sure that you over communicate the value. Make sure that you over communicate why are you doing the things that you're doing the way that you're doing. And then also make sure that after the training, that reassessment or reiteration is there even more than before by engaging the managers. Right. And again, give a lot more kudos, a lot more props, because virtual is hard on everyone, not just us, but learners too.
Petek, we got another live question. It's about cognitive overload. I swear you hit a sweet spot with this. I think a lot of people are facing this same issue. So here's the question. In some industries, like healthcare, processes or policies are changing daily as new information about COVID-19 surfaces. How do you suggest we keep everyone updated without causing cognitive overload or making them feel like they're failing to keep up?
Great question. Yes, and I hats off to you in the healthcare industry. Thanks so much for your entire group and yourself for supporting our healthcare people. Workers. That's first and foremost. Suggestion, if you want to ping me on LinkedIn, I would like to ask you a couple of follow-up questions to help you out with that. But just the best place to be is align with the management on the interval of when the updates are going to be made. Make sure that you're creating a central space that people can go and review the changes when they need it to be able to meet the learner where they are. And make sure that you, again, highlight if these policies are being implemented and being trained on, how does it really impact them? Not just blurb out the policies itself, and just try to highlight, this is the policy, but this is how it's impacting you and how you're doing your business. If you can do that, but given intervals and not just bombarding people all the time, that will help out a ton with the cognitive overload issue. Again, if you create a space, it's not an email, but people can always go and refer back to, that's great. And lastly, again, make it about how this specific policy impacts that individual specifically. If you don't have the bandwidth to do that, engage the managers of the people who their people is getting affected by this the most, and have the managers deliver that message in that way specifically. I hope that helps. And if you want more, we can definitely connect on LinkedIn. Happy to help out more on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Petek. So now our last topic, we're going to talk about the learner experience. Is there a difference between a remote learner and on-site learner experience?
I think so. I mean, again, number one, there's actually some pros and cons, so let's talk about that. I think the environment that you create is really important in the virtual space. And because we just really humanized that as a group, we had a really good results from that, I had to say. And what we did was, again, we said, hey, if you're at home, you're okay to wear your PJs. We're here to learn. This is not like a, meeting with your customer. It's okay to be yourself. We allow for people to be able to have their kids join and say hi to us. We joked around like their interns and stuff.
Love that.
So creating that environment was really important, making sure that we expect, one expectation is that you have to be extremely engaged. However you do it, you figure it out, we're going to support you throughout that. So that's really important. And then again, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but create smaller breakout groups for individuals to be able to take the concept that you just taught them and engage in a maybe playful manner of whiteboarding, group discussions, maybe group activity, but everybody's hands-on, everybody's involved. Those are really important. And I think we had some learning from this that we're going to bring back to when life goes back to normal, to in-person trainings, right? Again, like I said, smaller breakout groups. And then obviously you cannot say come to work with your PJs on, but again, just continue to make sure that people feel really comfortable and you create that safe space for people in general. And again, increase the props, increase the praises, not just for those people who are learning, but their managers too.
And I think it's funny because you're like, I sound like a broken record, but it's just so simple with the key things that you're saying. It's surveys that, make sure you're not having cognitive overload. Make sure you do have those breakout groups. So the fact that you're iterating it, I think makes a big impact because those are the key things that are truly working for you in Fivetran.
Yeah, they are. And again, and things are going to change too. Again, this is what's working right now. And we're going to find out maybe things are going to start changing in 10 days. My biggest advice to you, be mentally ready to be super agile, because in this environment, that's the most important thing for all of us. Stay agile and don't be married to a program and how it was. We just need to change, and that change is okay. Just mentally prepare yourself for that.
Right. That's big though. Don't be married to a training or the way things are. I think that's really great and something to note, especially with a time like this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So this next question I think is definitely something to note on. How do you help employees stay motivated while working remotely?
So this is really a great question. Again, praises go a long way. Making sure that you engage the leadership and let them know, hey, let's focus on a key, like vital few things. Maybe it's not just one theme, maybe it's 3 themes, but whatever that is, let's laser focus on that and give people exactly what it is that we're expecting of them. Tell them exactly which direction we're rowing towards together, and then how they're going to be able to be successful. So give them on how to do that. If you can focus on those vital few and do these things, number one, people are going to be able to manage that. And if they're managed, then they're going to be happier. And if so, then life is good, right? But in addition, that's not enough. Try to create some camaraderie. For example, we have this donut application in our on our Slack group. It's actually, do not be shy. So it just helps you match up with one person from the company. So you do fun activities together. In our team, we downloaded House Party. So we have people just go to House Party, and there are a bunch of games there. Definitely create like those opportunities for people to have game nights or game times. We did Watch My Crib. So we, I don't know if anybody remembers the MTV.
Oh yeah.
My crib. So everybody kind of walked around showing their cribs. We had Quarantini, where people would join with their choice of beverage, and then we played some fun games, just everybody being on here. So that really helps the morale, because believe it or not, people are getting freaked out because we're cooped inside, and it's not easy. I mean, it wasn't easy for me. So all these fun activities definitely made it a lot more fun and engaging. And if you haven't downloaded the House Party by now, definitely do it, because you're gonna love that.
Awesome. So I guess one of the final questions we have two more. What are 3 quick tips on keeping engagement high throughout the entire training?
That's a great question. Do not do, okay, so let's talk about the do's. Keep your slides very simple. If you overload your slides with a lot of information, especially a lot of words, so you're creating this dilemma for the person. Do I read what's on the slide or do I listen? And it just right there is a cognitive overload. So you can definitely fix that by making the really key points, maybe even written in bullet points. And sometimes what I like is it's just a picture that describes that bullet and tell the story. And again, try to maybe stick to one key point for 10 minutes and then try to create a very natural break there for people, some time to laugh, share a story, and just like they have that mental reset really fast, and then go to the next thing in the 10 minutes and then next thing in the 10 minutes. And don't try to overload one training with a lot of stuff. When you have people that request that from you, again, go back to your inquisitive moment and say, really, but out of these 50 things that you want us to train on, what are the top 3 that they need to walk away from this? And then they can start learning more of it on the job with some job aids. So that's really important. And most importantly, with each engagement, create or each training, create a lot of engaging moments by asking questions, creating hands-on experiences, something that they can do and experiment on their own, whiteboarding, whatever it is. Definitely do something fun there that really ties to what you're training on. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, the way you described that first training, when there's just too many words and someone talking at the same time, I was like, that is me. I was like, I can't do both.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so we only have a couple minutes, and for anybody who has to hop off, we will be sending this recording out, so don't feel like you're missing anything. So the last question is, how do you maximize learning?
Okay, that's a loaded question. Tell me more.
All right. Well, so I guess like during COVID, how are you making the most out of this training so far? Because I know there's like different ways, I guess, you can kind of deliver the training to people.
Gotcha. Again, back to basics. Keep the training to exactly fit the needs right now. That's really important. Show them directly exactly what's in it for them. Like, even before the training happens, make it fun, branded, saying, hey, do you want to be the biggest badass, I don't know, discovery person? This is going to do that for you. Like, brand it really nicely. Before, again, the training happens, make sure that the managers, if not covering on their one-on-ones in their team meetings, they take a moment, they reiterate the importance of the training and ask the team, what do they want to walk out of that training with? So it just prepares for that knowledge to be accepted when the training happens. Again, only do vital few and ask for management help to just be able to focus on that, deliver only that. And then after the training, make sure that reiteration happens with hands-on experience. So give them those job aids. Maybe it's like a visual of how to follow a process. Maybe it's a playbook. Maybe it's a talk track, whatever that may be. And create, I love workround challenges where people can go and you just like did a quick 10-minute training, but the rest of it is just them going in and practicing it, like how to do a discovery call together or how to write this GitHub lab or something like that. Whatever that is, you can do that through workround. Give them that hands-on experience for the majority of the time and do your training on for the short period of time. And then, of course, have the managers do a lot of coaching.
Right. I think you even mentioned when we were talking using the mobile app because for your trainings, because it's just something that's right there in front of you.
Yes. I mean, think about this. I feel like this thing, if something happened to this thing, I would like lose myself. So we live attached to our phones, right? I'm sitting in front of the TV next to my husband, and the only thing that I can think about is just picking this up and doing something with it. So if you deliver the training on a mobile app that they're already on, that's going to give you the best chances of getting that training done and have better satisfaction and more engagement. So definitely download the mobile app for WorkRamp if you haven't already.
Awesome. Well, cool. That's about everything that we have covered. Petek, you've been absolutely great. So thank you so much for joining us today and providing us some insight into remote onboarding and the process that you have at Fivetran. It's been extremely helpful, and we really appreciate you hopping on today's webinar.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed it. And Monica, you're always so fun. So I just
stop it. People are on here. No. But again, as for everyone who's registered, we will be sending out today's recording, so be on the lookout for that. And as always, I hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. And everybody, don't be a stranger. LinkedIn me if you have any questions.
Get her on LinkedIn, you guys. She's amazing.
Oh, thank you, Monica. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Petek.